Hello everyone, Linker here, excited to bring you this different kind of a video with 65 more facts you may not know about the 65 heroes in the game. This is coming up after my initial Reddit guide, link in description, with the same topic blew up. People really liked it, so I found additional different facts, some unlisted, on each hero in the game, especially Ascended heroes, for you to enjoy. And we're gonna start off with Athalia. Did you know her judgment cancels energy regeneration for 5 seconds? This makes her a big god comp early fight counter that you want to keep an eye for. Next, twins. The reason twins are used in the Twisted Realm is for their Unity ability. Most of their abilities target frontline allies by default. Unity allows them to share attack ratings, potentially buffing carries like Soros with attack stealing heroes like Grezel. Next, Orthos. His clock ability is called Time Trap. It will always target the 2 closest enemies to him. The time at which the clock explodes stunning in an AoE is completely random between 0 and 20 seconds, which makes him have a lot of free play value for hard campaign stages with difficult front lines. Next, Talene. Talene has 3 win conditions. First is staying alive and ulting to stack a shield and deal AoE damage. Second is dying and stacking her SI buff. And third is a combination of both, supporting allies. Bonus fact, note how her plus 30 triggers after she dies, having her not healing the team in a long time. That's a big reason why it's so important. It allows her to heal fast when it's needed the most. Next is Wukong. He has the most immunity effects in the game in Foresight, making him immune to CC every 9 seconds, signature item granting him protective shields that make him immune to damage beyond the threshold. Additionally, his ultimate making him disappear from the battlefield in tandem with the clones taking damage for him. After his ultimate, he recovers his signature item shields as well. Next, Flora. She's indifferent to most buffs, however, Aziz's energy regeneration will still hit her through, so a pretty cool interaction right there. Moving on to Hypogeans, we're gonna have Aziz. Speaking of the devil, quite literally, a lot of people forget his passive. He recovers 50 energy to all allies every 30 seconds. That's so mad in tandem with his Horrify cancelling everything. That's what we like to see. Next, Mahira. She has a lot of effective self-heals. Life Leech, especially in tandem with her ult. Her Whiplash damages allies, which heals her through a signature item, so really keep an eye for Mahira's healing and possibly counter hit in PvP. Next, Zorath. He was originally designed as a stall hero that gets stronger over time, only to find his uses in the most aggressive, fast-oriented compositions in the game. How ironic is that? His signature item had a big part in that. Next, Khazard. His gear crit can surpass 80% crit. I'll pull up a screenshot right here. Most crit buffers like Arthur and Skriath can make him ult and freeze 100% off his basics. Isn't that completely crazy? Next, we're gonna have Mazoth. He got a silent rework with his ult becoming the tentacles instead of him swallowing the enemy. He's now getting another rework so that abilities cannot affect the eaten enemy. That makes him the most reworked hero in AFK Arena to date. Now, for Dimensionals, we're gonna have Nakaruru, a great PvP hero against burst compositions since her 4 gives her immunity frames after she takes a certain amount of damage, so watch out for her PvP ability, especially against the types of Aaron. Arthur, not only does he have 3 shielding mitigation abilities for himself and his allies we explored in the last guide, his base defense is also one of the highest in the game, higher than even than the likes of Lucius. How tanky is he? Next, Ukyo. He's the only hero that isn't obtainable through free-to-play means in the game. Don't let that put you down though if you're a free-to-play player, cause he isn't necessary by any means. I'm doing just fine without him. Ezio has much better endgame PvP than PvE due to the scaling on his ult. We see a lot of this around Round of 8 Championship right now, so if you're a PvP player, make sure you grab him before the time runs out. He's getting a buff to his scalings too, which will probably make him stronger in PvE as well. Coming up is Lightbearers. We're gonna have Estrilda. Due to the longer range with her Joust Spear, her Ridicule can apply most heroes in the campaign before they engage. This doesn't work the same in PvP though, due to haste. Elder Tree items, signature items, etc., etc. Next, we're going to have Belinda, one of the heroes that works completely different in the early game and the early game. At the end game, she isn't used as a carry as much, but instead as a buffer or debuffer. Her brilliance makes enemies take more damage, and her blessing gives 20% attack ratings and crit to the strongest ally. Remember Khazard? He's going to come back to later. Rain, your favorite hero, her SI is almost as bad as she is. It grants 180% shield for her and her ally every time they ult. That's about half the shield from Sustenance, and that's a plus 30 ability right there. So really underwhelming. Hopefully she gets buffed soon. Fox, quick one, you can dodge the coffin. High dodge heroes, high power, dodge the coffin right away, keep an eye. Lucius, quick read, the effective scaling on his ult is over 2,500%. I'm not even kidding with this bonus tip. He always knocks back when put in the backline, and his SI allows him to cleanse buffs when he knockbacks, so keep an eye for that against buffing heroes. Thane. Thane's lunge might seem underwhelming to you, but remember he engages with it and it gives immunity frames. This makes him surprisingly efficient against Athalia if invested, which he shouldn't be. Hendrik. His knockback, which much like Lucius he'll uses always if put in the backline, stuns and reduces enemy damage by 50% for 5 seconds, so keep Hendrik backline in your mind when coming up with these compositions. Rowan can only dodge damage above a certain threshold, making him very vulnerable to damage over time from the likes of Pharrell. Gwyneth, her signature item grants her plus 5 haste at level 25, which makes level 25 a crucial benchmark to hit, because 5 haste on Gwyneth seriously matters. Rosaline, she will prioritize the following ally over anything. This is why you don't want her on extremely mobile heroes like Athalia or Kelthur or their targets, because she will not use abilities while following them. And just you wait, because when you get to the Graveborn section, we'll give you some unknown Graveborn counters for Rosaline. Cecilia. This one has to be a repeat fact because people are sleeping on that. Her Blade of Purification, the 3-stage attack, has no cooldown if she crits, drastically increasing her damage. So don't sleep on that and give her the eye artifact that she rightly deserves. Rigby. His base defense and HP on top of Drunken Frenzy make him tanky. Because of this, without signature items and furniture, he's actually not as bad as you may think, making him almost a decent hero in certain trials challenges. Would you believe that? Oscar has hard to see in the knives he throws at the weakest enemies' heroes. Weakest is determined by HP, and he stacks haste as enemies lose health, applying this faster as the fight goes on. This is why he works decently with heroes like Zolrath, who wait for thresholds, or Aziz with his +1 signature item bonus. Maulers, one of those factions that people really like or really hate, depending on who you are. We're gonna start with Brutus. Brutus has a niche that's not just his immunity. He increases physical damage taken by enemies and makes attacks undodgeable. This is why he's decent with Gwyneth and so good against Aaron. Next, Cassis. Don't think of his 9 out of 9 as signature item as a useless addition, because you can just put him in the backline instead of the front line where he gains this bonus, because it's almost strictly better. He's better at supporting others than he is at carrying in the end game. Next up, Vork. You probably know the buff scaled his damage and gave him piercing bolts, making him finish this ult above 500 energy. One thing people overlook though is the poison bombs, the poison traps, the longest single ability stun in the game for a potential 25 seconds. Extra fact is that they disappear when he dies, so watch out. Numisu. So many facts about Numisu in this channel. His rework had an unlisted reduction of his cooldown for both totem placing abilities, and this is why he's so much better against single target damage than he used to be, making my Tassie and Sophia very sad. Some of you might know that reference. Screg. Much like Lucius, he'll always use his knock-up initially if placed in the backline. Warwick. His CC immunity ability, Extricate, is one of the only abilities that mention cooldown strictly. This is mostly seen on earlier designed characters like him and Tassie. Also note that the shield and the CC immunity are separate in this ability, meaning after he gets the shield you can hit him with a certain CC as well right after it, even if the shield is still up. Antendora. 3 of her abilities, her signature item, and furniture are all healing related. This is why she benefits so much from Namora increasing her passive healing. Sophia, her signature item plus 30 takes her inflicting over 4,500% of her attack rating and damage to trigger its plus 30. That's rarely triggering even after a single ult, so much slower than most people think it is. Citrana, super weird for me, but since her rework, she actually became viable in the very end game and the chapter 33 and onward. There she's a tank counter healer that goes in Mauler sets. Weird. Tidus is one of the heroes that could benefit the most from manually stopping his ultimate. While his ultimate gives him some damage, his howl sometimes is more important to land. It has a 5-second fear effect, increasing him and his allies' haste by 35% and attack rating by plus 30. Isn't this an ultimate effect all on its own, don't you think? Next, we have Drez. His rapid slice and his furniture haste stack. He's also very crit oriented, and I stacks on him cumulatively, making him one of the best users of it if you do end up using him. Skriath, the only hero you guys convinced me I play strong in the SI tier list. I guess this SI deserves 1 tier higher. You guys are right. He also increases crit, and alongside Belinda and Arthur can give a hero over 80% total. Do you remember the low-level cuts we were talking about? Keep these heroes in mind. Now, we already passed 40 heroes in about 12 minutes time after editing, I think. I think this is super useful. Let me know in the comments, how do you like this format if you got this far? And thank you very much for all the feedback. And for now, I'm just going to carry on with the heroes. We've got about 25 of them left. Anarchy. He's centered around his Horn of War, making him give shields equal to 30% of his max health. He can also get multiple uses of it through his signature item and other means. This is why he's one of the heroes that benefits from having higher level Helm, which is usually the least prioritized piece of gear. Gear guide coming up soon, don't you think? Maybe. Would you like it? Namora. Her furniture has a cool interaction with Aaron and Skriath. It's not 100% consistent, but she can theoretically have the whole enemy team pulled with Aaron and Skriath and charm them right away. To pull this off, it's optimal to leave her in the backline and Aaron in a nearby frontline slot. Kaz. Her base dodge isn't the highest in the game. It's actually lower than Aaron, for example, without signature item and abilities involved. Laika has an unlisted fact, just the type that you guys like the most, especially that's the kind of feedback I got. If you put her in the front line, she'll start the fight between the front and the back line. This happens because of the ability that buffs haste. It has an initial pounce, and the pounce lands her exactly between the back line and the front line, creating very interesting interactions. Tassie. The fairy she summons alternates between damaging and healing, and it has very high scaling. It is interruptible, but it's hard to interrupt because she teleports around all the time. Olmus. His SI stacks with his furniture, making it so every single one of his active abilities triggers a shield on allies. This is why he works great with Gorvo, who increases shield efficiency. Ceres. Deluge can interrupt up to 3 enemies, but it's dodgeable, kind of like an Arden pull, making him a very good hero against low dodge enemies. Aaron, well, I made a whole video about Aaron, one of my favorite heroes. Watch the video. He has 3 Sophia ults in his kit if he bounces the wind once. 3 Sophia ults, I'm still so crazy about that. Next up is gonna be Gorvo. Now, Gorvo, guys, hey guys, keep it down. This one's gonna be discreet. But you know, this new comp with Naka instead of Lorsan in the burst comp, where they have Nakaru, Laika, Zolrath, Aaron. So in there, slap this guy in. He dies to Lorsan, but he absolutely destroys the Naka variant. Completely crazy, like 90% win rate or something. So Gorvo, a huge PvP heroes that people are really sleeping on. Lorsan. Lorsan's gonna be the next hero. He destroys Gorvo. So for the 50th fact, we're gonna have Saurus. His campaign spiraling carry idea is that in tandem with his clones, he has very high single target lockdown, and then he can stun. This is why in campaign he enjoys haste more than attack and blade. Keep that in mind when prioritizing this one of my favorite artifacts to talk about. Solis, she's actually has pretty mad scalings, making her one of the best mages to invest in for an endgame carry. She does take a lot of investment though. Grezel is the only hero in the game that steals defense and attack permanently, repeatably, through the match. Look at Demonic Assault, a really mad ability. Chimera, I think I've covered most of the facts about her. The hero that got me is like in the early game when I was ranking through. Chimera was like an undiscovered hero. Everybody was using Brutus, so Chimera and Rowan really got me forward. I'll just quickly say that she's still one of the best carries up to campaign stage 25. So if you're an early game player and you see all these tier lists trashing her for the end game, don't be afraid. She can help you get through the end game and get much more heroes in the long run through how much she can push you. Thorin. His offensive usage falls off in the endgame after chapter 31 and 32 where he flourishes, so his inconsistency when he's used offensively makes it much harder to use him, because your chances to pass are going to be the multiplication of all the chances that you have, so inconsistent sets become much harder to use. Isabella. Her casting speed stacks cumulatively, making her Lyca's best friend. Speaking of game-breaking haste buffs, read up on Celerity 3rd ability. Just read that stuff, it's absolutely insane. Get your Celerity tree up to 25 and 30, it's crazy. Nora. People forget her passive. She reduces energy by 440 every 10 seconds. It takes her time to ult, but that time she makes enemies lose their ultimates as well for a good amount, and it doesn't even have her losing her ult if she adds their plus 30, but that scales further with the furniture, and so on and so forth. I'll just stop here. Feral. People are hyped about his recent buff. They forget it was initially bugged. Now what I mean by initially bugged, he was keeping the spirits killing Brutuses after Thorin ulted twice. Like, this guy's spirit duration was way over what it was supposed to be. The spirits would stay too long, they would apply all the time, they could like be on 5 enemies in 2 seconds. That's no longer the case, so the buff is not necessarily as clear cut as you think. Next, Baden. He's a great substitution in the Twisted Realm. He's even in the Arden top comp because of his Spectral Onslaught. It makes enemies take 10% extra damage, stacking up to 5 times. Not a defense drop, so it stacks with Warwick very well. Kelthur. Did you know he has the highest base attack in the game? Did you also know that he has the highest base attack increase in the game in the signature item? Just read that stuff. Kelthur carry actually becomes viable in the endgame, and there's a good reason for it. So all of you Kelthur mains, just know that it's not as bad as some people make it seem. Odin. What likes targeting different enemies frequently in the early fight stages, distributing his energy reduction to prevent ultimates and distribute CC, and a good way to achieve that is with banishes, making him re-aggro on something else, so it goes well with heroes like Tassie or Fox. Isolde takes a lot of investment, but he carries like mad in the endgame just as well. He relies on healing. Now Silas is an unreleased Graveborn hero that's about to come out. He's a Graveborn healing focused hero. That's some Theorycraft synergy right there. Torn. Now we're getting to the Rosaline counter section we promised. His ult is a huge counter to heroes that move. While not a filled condition, his ult could inflict up to 12% of max hero health per second, lasting for 10 seconds. 12 times 10? Yeah, that's over 100%. That's over 100% of the health. That just kills anything regardless of levels. Of course defense applies, but against moving heroes he actually has a pretty interesting niche if he gets to ult. Daemon. I covered Daemon in depth, but I actually have a cool fact for you. He has a translation error. Stitchy converts 100% of the damage he deals, not the damage he receives, as healing to Daemon. Fairwind, lastly, that new hero, well, she is significantly less strong than most people have predicted. With her 9 and 9 furniture, she can steal all health and energy restored to an ally, making her a pretty good counter to, you guessed it, Rosaline. She can get all the health healed and all the energy restored, so pretty interesting mechanic when you see in the enemy team heroes like Talene, heroes like Rosaline, and so on and so forth. And with that, I'm gonna wrap up this video. It's pretty in-depth, I think. It's like has all these facts. Let me know what you think about these kinds of videos and what else would you like in the comments. Whether you see this on Reddit or YouTube, I really like this feedback. And I'll link the original guide in the description. It'll be a written guide, but it has additional facts for you. So if you like that, definitely check it out. And with that, I've been Linker, and thank you very much.